The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice. You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
Hey, that is me. Boy, down at the compound, it is cold, and wouldn't you believe it, snow again. After about 2.5 feet of snow about a week and a half ago, it is snowing again down here at the compound. And people are saying there's no such thing as earth changes. Well, it's happening. Well, boy, what's happening in Washington, D.C.? I don't even want to talk about it tonight because you know what? If it's fake news, it's fake news. If it's not fake news, it's not fake news. And at this point, I'm kind of like, don't care today. Anyway, we got a great guest tonight. We got NICK TICE. He has had experiences since a child with the paranormal, and it has followed him all the way from childhood to adulthood. He'll be on right after this.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Well, Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm alive, and at my age, every day I take it as precious. As long as I can find my motorcycle keys or my car keys, I am doing great.
Yeah, we've got that in common. That's a nice bike you've got there.
Oh, yeah. Which one? I got 2 Harleys.
I only saw, looks like a Street Glide or a stripped down Ultra. I didn't see the other one.
Oh, it's a 2016 Street Glide. And then the other one is a Ultra Classic Fireman's Edition, which, you know, I kind of took the tour pack off of it, and now it kind of looks like a Street Glide.
Yeah, I just got rid of my Ultra, actually. I'd done the same thing, took the tour pack off. I didn't have much of a use for it, but here soon I'll be in the market for another one.
I'll tell you, when I bought this bike, I had the other one, and I bought it used. It was a 2008 Firefighters edition. It had maybe 8,000 miles on it. I mean, flawlessly mint. But, and then I had the engine build up, and I did all this stuff where it could even pop wheelies. But then, I don't know. I got hooked on a Street Glide. Both bikes handle completely different. The Ultra, you can sit there and go for a long, road trip with it without getting, too tired. The Street Glide, it doesn't handle quite as nice. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm hooked on Harley. For years, I rode Honda. Nothing wrong with Honda, but I'll tell you, the Harley Street Glide and Ultra Classic, I mean, it's this night and day difference.
Yeah, I started out on a Yamaha and then moved to a Suzuki, and I got my first Sportster after that, and I've had 3 or 4 big bikes, classics or ultra classics, and it seems like it always comes back to the Sportster though, and I get so much crap for saying that, but I just love the way a Sportster handles and rides. Oh
yeah. They're a nice bike, and I like it. My wife would kill me. What I did, I pulled a fast one on her, and I hope she's not listening. Back when I bought this bike, I already knew I was going to buy it. But my wife was complaining she wanted a new car. So I said, hey, honey, go out and buy any car you want. And she goes, well, what's the price limit? I said, I don't care. You just go out and buy it and, and be happy. And her and my one son went out, and they found a Mitsubishi Outliner. And it was a brand new car, but a year old. And she come home, and she was really excited. She goes, guys, we got this car for $19,099. And I going, wow, okay. So then I went out the next day and picked up my Harley, right? $32,000 out the door. So she's looking at, and she can't comprehend, motorcycle prices. And she was, looking at it. And then she asked, well, how much did it cost? And I said, well, I don't want to tell you. And she goes, well, honey, how much was it? And I said, $32,000. I tell you, I never seen a woman wet their pants before. She was so upset. And then I had to listen to her lecture me all day and the next day and the next day. Well, my car came with air conditioning, deluxe upholstery, deluxe, body trim. It has 4 tires. How can your motorcycle with only 2 tires, no air conditioning? I said, it has air conditioning. When you're moving, you got air conditioning. She was mad.
Well, we've got an Outlander, too, and that thing feels like driving a shoebox, I'll tell you.
Well, I'm a big guy, and I'll tell you, getting into it and getting out of it, it's just uncomfortable. And going for the seats and everything, it's not a comfortable car, at least for me. We got an old 2008 Scion, the newer body style one. And, I get in that thing, and hey, it's comfortable. I don't like the way it looks or anything, but, it's been dependable. Almost 300,000 miles on it, and only had to replace the alternator twice and the brakes twice.
Well, you can't beat that at all.
But it still is not the same as riding my Street Glide.
I imagine not.
But anyway, getting into your paranormal experiences, why don't you tell everybody what you do and, and let's get into when all these paranormal experiences happen and started happening with you.
Well, I'm a truck driver. I'm 32 now. Primarily what I do is just Pennsylvania to Texas and back. That's about it these days. I started experiencing stuff whenever I was about 5 years old, and it kind of scared me back then, but now it's just almost second nature. It's not that big of a deal anymore. It's just, well, that was weird. So, but yeah, whenever I was a kid, some of this stuff used to freak me out quite a bit.
Well, I mean, when you're 5 years old, what type of things were happening paranormal-wise to you?
The first thing I remember happening is this was the one that happened when I was about 5. And I remember waking up in my room, and there was, all right, this is going to be kind of hard to describe, but there was this guy, and he was just pacing back and forth across my room. And he had, you know what I mean when I say the old style, the way they used to carry candles back in, let's say, 1700s. They'd have the saucer with the candle on top of it.
Oh, yeah, yes.
He was just pacing back and forth across my room. And I'll never forget this guy. He was in a white robe, and he had long, wavy hair. It was brown. And he had on, the best way I can describe him is Ben Franklin glasses. That's the only way I can describe him to you. and he acted like I was not even there. He was pacing back and forth. It's like I didn't exist. And that freaked me out quite a bit. And that kind of set the tone for everything that happened the rest of my life. That was the very first thing.
Now, I got to ask you a question, Nick, before we can get into this. How old of the house was it? I mean, was it a newer house, or was it a house that was like 100 years or more older, or what?
That's a question I don't have a great answer to. Where I'm from Pennsylvania, so just about everything is old there. From a very small town, I think the population was like 300 people. It was a very small town. A lot of old houses. Ours didn't seem old to me, but I was also a kid. So it's very hard for me to answer that question.
You know, too, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of times even the house has nothing to do with it, because maybe it was a house there previously, you know, that stood there for a long period of time, and, you know, somebody passed on in that house. They didn't go to the light. They're still there. Or, you know, it's like if you play a recording back and they're kind of stuck in a loop where, you know, they're actually not there, but their, you know, image and stuff is like being replayed over and over, like a scene of a movie you don't want to watch.
Absolutely. I don't feel like whatever this was watching over me. I don't feel like it even knew I was there. I don't think it was anything intelligent. It just seemed like it was happening. It didn't show any type of interaction with anything in the room. All it did was pace back and forth. That's it.
And how did you respond to it? I mean, were you like putting the blanket over your head and hoping it would go away type of situation?
That is exactly what I did. And I fell right back to sleep. I mean, within 2 minutes, I was asleep. When I woke up, I still had the blankets over my head.
Now, did it happen more than just once? Or, I mean, did it repeat itself over and over again through the time you were living there?
That was the only time that happened. The only other thing I had happen in that house around that time, same room, same house, is I woke up and I couldn't get out of my bed. Like, I stood up and it just felt like there were walls all the way around the bed. That house, the house is still there, but it never felt good to me. We actually lived right next door to my grandparents, and that house always had a very weird feeling, like nobody wanted to go down into the basement. It was a dirt floor basement, and it was very creepy. I never liked that house.
Well, maybe something was buried in that basement. And the reason why I say something like that, you know, when I was a little kid, and probably maybe about your age, my grandmother and grandfather moved from an island called Whidbey Island over to the Seattle area. And they rented a house. And they were in that house for about a year. And, you know, it was to the point my grandmother and grandfather would come over every, you know, Friday and Saturday and visit and watch our TV. Because, I mean, they didn't have a TV. And, you know, they would be telling us stories like knocks on the wall, things moving, weird, you know, just weird things were going on. And it constantly, like, you know, like things just moving from a different part of the house to the other part of the house. Now, I knew my grandmother. And she was not the type of person that would, you know, imaginate things. The same with my grandfather. The same way. He was very stern, very, you know, honest. And it kept on going on and on. And, you know, what happened is when they moved out, a new tenant came in to that rental. And for some reason, they had to go underneath the house, under the crawl space, to fix something or whatever it was. They found a blanket with chains around it. Well, after the authorities got there and everything, and I guess what the owner of the house murdered his wife and had her underneath the house all the time. Could you imagine renting a house with a body underneath the floorboards in the front room?
I don't think I'd ever sleep good again.
Well, I wouldn't want to be in that house ever again. And I'm just wondering, you know, that things like that can happen. And, you know, it can manifest. I mean, a lot of, you know, the people I've had on the show, it's been weird things like, you know, like in Missouri where they had a lot of, you know, fighting during the Civil War. Bodies were planted everywhere. People owned acreage and they would see weird things going on, or doors would open and slam in their house and things like that.
Yeah. We actually, about 6 or 7 months ago, we had went to look at a house, and it was a really great deal. It was a rent-to-own house. And we got there, And as soon as